After his shadowy specter of a mother released her hug, Kantaki nervously continued his journey, continuing his way down the path to the village, the thoughts looming in his mind. Why is she speaking now? What danger's coming? And how soon? He thought to himself, as he made his way closer and closer towards the village. As he did, Kantaki began to feel a strange sensation, something that he hadn't felt before, like a pull, something telling him that there was something important in a specific direction, almost like magnetism, like it was drawing him to it. It was so powerful that he could almost feel as if he could judge the distance from this thing of importance. As he stopped in place, standing in the middle of the road, as it felt as if whatever it was coming closer. Judging by the path he was traveling, it felt as if it was coming down the road, moving in the opposite direction as he was. No doubt if he continued walking, whatever this thing of importance was would surely come into view if it continued on its current path. And in the instant that he noticed it, suddenly it felt as if the object of importance began to move quickly. He suddenly felt it growing closer and closer, more rapidly than it was before. He could almost judge the speed, and as that became clearer to him, he could almost begin to hear footsteps in his mind's eye. Hear the footprints clattering against the random stones of the path to the village. Rapid footsteps, running quickly, moving in his direction with all haste. Not only that, but he could sense desire, a powerful desire, but not one of his own. It felt as if it was the desire of another, the desire to have something that they held valuable and precious. They ran towards him with the intention of claiming something that they desired, something that they desired deeply. But what was it? Who was it? Why did Kantaki suddenly feel this? What is it? As the feeling grew closer and closer, Kantaki found himself unable to move, simply awaiting whatever this presence was, curious to find out what this sensation meant, who was coming this direction, as lo and behold, appearing on the path ahead of him, he could see a figure in the distance beginning to emerge, an individual wearing a tattered cloak and clothing, running barefoot across the road, heading in his direction as fast as they could. Their figure was small, slight. Judged on size, they seemed to be about the same age as Kantaki, or at least the same build and height. As they approached, finally coming to a stop, a dozen or so feet in front of Kantaki, as he could hear them breathing heavily. "It's you. I found you," they exclaimed, breathing heavy from running, seeming almost exhausted. Who are you? Is there something I can do for you?" "Give her to me," the figure replied. What? I don't know what you mean. Give who to you?" "Mother. Give her to me. You don't deserve her. You don't need her. Not like I do. There's no need to pretend. You see her too, don't you, Mother?" the figure said, as they lifted their head, finally getting control of their breath back somewhat, removing the hood that covered their face, at which point Kantaki was horrified to see his own face beneath it. Yes, a bit more ragged, somewhat more gaunt, but it was there nonetheless. His own face, Kantaki's face. Mother is with you. She is with all of us, but only one of us truly deserves her. Only one of us can be with her forever. It's up to us to decide. What are you talking about? Who are you? Kantaki replied. Don't you know? I'm Kantaki, and you're Kantaki. We're all Kantaki, but only one of us can truly be Kantaki, the boy said. So all you have to do is give Mother to me, the boy said, as he reached into the cloak around him, pulling out a hand knife, a simple kitchen implement used for chopping food. His was old and weathered, missing chips and pieces, as he smiled menacingly in Kantaki's direction. She's mine, he exclaimed as he began to lunge in Kantaki's direction, running as fast as he could, as he rapidly slashed out, aiming towards Kantaki's throat. He dodged back, falling backwards for a moment and dropping the case of fireworks as they scattered across the ground, narrowly missing, having his throat slashed. Give her to me, the boy exclaimed, madly, as in another rapid movement, he rushed down, grasping the blade with both hands, holding it over his head as he lunged it downwards towards Kantaki. Kantaki, as quickly as he could, trying to move to the side, the blade narrowly missing him, slashing into his shoulder as it did. Kantaki felt the sharp pain as the boy rapidly brought the knife back up, and in the moment, Kantaki simply reacted, kicking as hard as he could into the boy's chest, sending him reeling back for a moment, stumbling backwards as he hit his back on the roadway, dropping the knife that he had in his grasp for a moment. Kantaki gripped his arm, feeling the cut that tore into it. He could feel the warmth of his own blood rushing into it, staining his shirt as he saw the boy beginning to scramble, moving back towards the knife that had landed several feet away. He was trying to kill him. This duplicate was trying to kill Kantaki. He was trying to kill me, he thought to himself. What do I do? What do I do? Kantaki thought. He had never even been in a fight before. He didn't even know how to fight. And yet, that boy was rapidly moving towards the blade. Soon he'd have it in his grasp. He didn't know if he could fend off another attack, and he didn't really know what to do. In the moment of panic, he almost thought to get up and just run. But as his eyes glanced over, thinking that he would simply roll over, get up, and run away, he saw it lying there, like it just jumped out at him, catching his eyes. The flint starter, included within the fireworks set, to light the fireworks. Without any hesitation whatsoever, Kantaki reached for the flint starter, grabbing one of the largest fireworks within the set, rapidly sparking it, as the hiss of the wick for the firework sparked to life. As it did, the boy, scrambling towards the knife, grabbed it, holding it tight in his grasp, standing back up and turning around, beginning to head back towards Kantaki. And in that moment, Kantaki grasped the large firework in his grasp, holding it tightly and not knowing what else to do. He simply struggled his way to his feet. The wick nearly burnt out. He hurled it as hard as he could, the firework flying through the air, as the boy lunged out at him, screaming, "Give her to me!" The firework flew into his mouth. Kantaki, in a panic, stood up, running to the side of the road, jumping off, as the fireworks, still lodged in his mouth, detonated. An explosion of bright color erupted from the location, followed by a discordant series of explosions as all of the other fireworks caught, exploding one after another, in bursts of bright, vibrant color that filled the entire area. The sparks flying off of the roadway, scattering past Kontiki as he huddled in a ditch to the side of the road. The explosions seemed ceaseless. They seemed to go on forever, until finally they began to die down, as Kontiki breathed heavily, beginning to pull himself out of the ditch, staring onto the now blackened roadway, covered in the scars of countless firework explosions, and seeing the charred remains, or what was left of the remains, burning, smoldering on the roadway, the knife only a short distance away, as Kontiki stared at it in a panic. "What have I done?" he said, clutching his arm, the pain still throbbing through it, still the warm feeling of his own blood rushing through his fingers. Wide-eyed and horrified, he suddenly began to notice trails of light echoing off of the body, or the ashes that were remained of it, as they swirled in his direction. Kontiki began to step back away from them, only to find that his body seemed to be absorbing these whirls of light as they faded into him. And as they did, Kontiki began to notice something, the pain in his arm beginning to subside as he began to remove his hand, looking at the injury. He saw the wound itself beginning to mend, healing itself up, not entirely, but at least somewhat, as the flow of fluorescent energy ceased, and Kontiki was left standing there. "It's all right, Kontiki. See, I'm still alive, and so is he," Kontiki heard a familiar voice whisper as he looked over to see his mother standing beside him, his shadowy, spectral mother. "Now he is a part of you. You have taken all that he was and made it part of you. His strength has become yours, and so no one is really dead. So it's all right, Kontiki," she said, lowering her hand, placing it gently upon Kontiki's cheek as he looked up at her, now horrified. Is this what she meant by